Welcome to Leadership in Tech, Thriving in the AI Era, brought to you by the IT Media Group. I'm Nishine Liu, co-founder and partner with the IT Media Group, a tech leadership-centric media company. I'm delighted to introduce our next panel, starting with Paul Lewis, the moderator. Paul is the Chief Technology Officer with Pythian. Joining Paul are Gini Wong, Head of Information Technology with Mitsubishi Financial Group, Gurvinder Gill, Chief Information and Security Officer with Toronto Parking Authority, and Marcel Escorcio, Vice President of Americas International with Hitachi Vantara. So over to you, Paul, to kick off your panel.
Welcome everyone to AI Readiness, How Do I Get Started panel, to which is also known as the best panel of the day. Artificial intelligence, are we ready? You know, we heard in the first few panels, enterprises should care about AI because of the opportunity the technology creates. It serves as a catalyst for growth in many ways. Now, most organizations are successful when they adopt new capabilities. It drives excitement internally with customers and with prospects. However, enterprise maturity specifically plays a critical role in successful implementation of AI. It's not just about having the right technology, but it's about building strong data and capabilities ecosystem supporting its advancement, along with a lot of fundamental capabilities and even expert capability to jump the ground there. Customers are getting ready for AI, and I would suggest they follow this general pattern. They read and explore. In fact, you might have a few people who focus on reading and exploring to understand where to play and where not to play. Then they define policies. What can we do with the IT team? What can we do with the general staff? What kind of technology should we allow for its use inside or allow for its use outside? Then we educate, we share, we learn across the organization, we try some things, we do some proof of concepts, and then we actually assess our readiness. Do we have the skill sets? Do we have the core capabilities? And based on all of that, let's kind of double click on some questions to see whether we're ready. First angle, let's talk about governance first. I contend that foundational AI readiness capabilities include at least 3, but you might have others. Enterprise management of data, from an ecosystem, a governance, even an information security side. You might even think of it from hardware all the way to visualizations. Number 2, customer data privacy capability, right? I need to know when and what I can share and how often I can share that. And then, of course, in number 3, an integration of core systems. If I don't retrain those AI models with things that are true to me, then how are they actually going to create value for my organization? So given those, what are the foundational readiness capabilities that you encountered, each one of you, and how are they addressed? Let's start with Gini.
I would like to actually pull ourselves even on a very higher level, which to think about this IT readiness is not just an IT initiative, and we have to think about it is an organizational initiative, which it is also, like the previous panel talked about, it is a huge cultural shift. And what it means by that is, how can we make sure that we have the horizontal alignment from the top down, and so that you make sure that, especially in a corporate environment, how can you find support and making sure that everybody are on the same page with this important initiative? While AI brings prediction, perhaps even bring efficiency, but to some, it brings fear, it brings uncertainty. So as an IT leader, how can we be the ambassador, not only to make our user excited, but also to educate and find your ally, market it in the right way? And this also speaks to, we need to start to equip ourselves first, just so that we are ready to share this huge excitement and great opportunity in front of us.
Gurvinder, do you share those sort of top-down appreciation of the readiness, the competencies you need?
In our experience, we're going bottom up doing that. And I'll tell you why. So one of the things you have to look at is the data infrastructure. How big is your data set? Are you going to use data lakes versus warehouse? Are you going to do data quality and labeling? As you know, that these models requires a lot of data sets. And a lot of organizations, whether they're legacy or new, you have islands of data sitting everywhere. And bringing that together, you need a robust infrastructure first to understand. And when you're training with AI models, you need to make sure that you have right infrastructure to do that, right sets of GPUs, TPUs, or specialized AI hardware that you have doing. If you're going into the cloud, make sure that you understand what that cost will look like for you and what that might look like in the next 3 to 5 years for you. So understanding from day one what your capital investment that you need to do from an IT perspective, so that you can elaborate and tie back to your expenditures down the road. So those are the key parameters that at least we're looking at it at this moment, so that we are using a balanced approach. Once you go past the hardware side, then you get to a software side. Which AI models do you need? Which fits best to your own day-to-day life and operations you're doing that? And once you pass that, do you need a set of models, or do you need a set of, or just a single model to do any predictive or prescriptive analytics for you to do that? And once you have that, then you look into the ethics of that data storage. How do you make sure that data model is safe or secure and well protected? Eventually, once these becomes core to your operations, you need to safeguard your data models from breaches and privacy concerns.
Interesting. So Ginny's top down. Let's look at the business and the technology. Your bottom up. Let's look at the technology specific. Marcel, I can only assume you're left to right. You're look at the business and then determine its action and then implement it with technology.
Or just say, I'm going to be the bridge. And it always, from my perspective, starts with understanding that vision of the business outcome that you're trying to achieve. And then, of course, back to what Jenny said about commitment of leadership and an organizational alignment is critical. We saw in the poll around skilled resources that are challenged to have. So how do we utilize some of our ecosystem to engage them into the mix to support the organizations? The data readiness has to be there. We just heard that. And that takes us to that infrastructure layer, which is critical, Gurvinder mentioned, around AI workloads. However, I do believe that I don't believe everyone should be jumping into GPUs right away. You know, there's existing resources that they can use to get started. And I think that's the most thing. How do they get started in the most cost-effective way? And once they get started, they're going to be able to mature in that environment, understand and get a lot of learnings. And then they'll be in a better position to invest in that powerful AI platform that's high performance, high available. And that's going to be the key that everyone's going to want to move towards.
3 different directions, but still addressing the core capabilities. And I'm glad you bridged from those core capabilities to data, because that's kind of the next part of the talk. So if you presumed you've implemented those fundamental capabilities, top down, bottom up, left to right, if you look at now sort of the context of the data-centric culture, what specific steps can tech leaders take to discover new organizational insights, to enhance data governance and quality, to ensure that the data foundation, both the software and hardware readiness database, is robust and reliable to create success for AI implementation? Let's start with Gurvinder first. What's the data-centric culture steps required?
We started from actually mapping out our data flow, how the data getting generated and how it's getting consumed. And you need to understand what your flow looks like, who's producing it and who's going to use it. Once you have that, you map the journey out, then you slice and dice doing that. We go one level deeper. Now we understand the raw data, now segment into different buckets. We call it bronze data, silver data, and the gold data. We don't run AI models on our bronze because it's a raw data. It has everything, whether it's a structured or unstructured data. Data cleansing is a first step, understanding how you're going to process and you're going to leverage that.
So then, Marcel, are you thinking of this in terms of technology, or are you starting at a different place in terms of data culture?
We know data matters and it's foundational to everything we do, whether it be on the personal side or the business side. An ex-CEO many years ago basically say that not all data is equal, but data lives forever. And it's so true. So given that, some of my top 3 pieces of advice to tech leaders would be to focus on having the right data, meaning access to all the data focused on that business outcome that they're trying to achieve in the right place, meaning centralized in the scalable repositories close to the source. And of course, at the right time, which talks about data agility and having access when it's needed. So if you can't deliver it, so keep it simple, Paul. right data, right place, right time.
And Ginny, I'm getting the impression you're going to worry about the data itself. Would that be true?
That's true, because Gurvinder started talk about the how to clean the data, and Marcel talked about some of the principle that you want to focus. I will start also think about what data set that you need, starting with the training data set that you will need to build your AI machine. And you need to think about also what are the input data set and also feedback data set, which is really, this is to power your AI machine as it ready, and the feedback data set to help you to continue to train your AI machine. Now, with that said, you also want to have the right governance to have the right access control so that only the right people can access the right data and use the right data and the result. So that really comes down to the governance and the compliant aspect of it. And then we talked a little bit of the risk. And this is going to be super important. Going back to the very beginning, I talked about horizontal alignment. How can we make sure that it aligned with the expectation of our risk management department, our compliance department, our product, and our data? So it has to all come together with this.
A good summary of the entire session might be the right data, the stuff you need, in the right place, available for you to choose it at the right time, ensuring the agility to make sense. And then you want to approach that from top down, both technology and business, bottom up from the actual tools and technologies, and from left to right, from where the business needs to all the way to the end, and to the insights itself. Well, very thoughtful discussion, incredibly interesting. Thanks again to our panelists. I appreciate all your detailed and persuasive advice.